Alright, in this episode we're going to make a pin for one of the teachers that works with my daughter-in-law. And I picked out a black with pearl blank and an attraction pin from Woodcraft, which is a magnetic. It's really kind of neat. The top is magnetic, so it clicks when it's fully put together, and then when you want to write with it, you just pull it apart and it clicks onto the top of the pen. It's really attractive. There are a little more pieces to it than normal. I think there's 4 to the top and 5 to the bottom, but get it in the correct order, it pushes in easily. It's a nice kit to put together. I really like the pen. I think she'll like it. So right now I'm just kind of trying to make sure I understand where everything goes. And I think I got it. Almost. So the next thing to do is let's get the blank marked. And we can get that thing. I'm speeding things up a little bit here. Get the blank marked, square it off. Let's get it to the bandsaw, get it cut. This turned out to be a really good blank. I don't know who made it, but they sure knew what they were doing. Very easy to work with blank. Well, let's go get it drilled. So we set it up in the press. Start drilling it, taking small chunks, trying to clear it out. Don't want to keep it in there too long. Start heating up. I had to grab it again. I had it too short in the beginning. And you'll see that I didn't have the blank up far enough, so the press bottomed out, and I'll find that out in a minute. So I did what I should have done in the first place, get it closer to the bit. It's a brad point bit, and then I want to make sure I'm centered so when it goes in it doesn't have a tendency to chip or grab the tube. So make sure it's centered. And it goes in, and it'll go up. There it goes. Didn't take much. So let's go get the tube glued up. As usual, I'm using the scale to measure the glue. Popsicle stick and a small little plastic container. Roughed up the tube a bit with sandpaper. Make sure you fit the tube in the blank before you start gluing. After you got the glue on, it's not the time to find out it's not quite fitting good. So I put about usually 8, maybe 10 grams of the epoxy, and then 8 or 10 grams of the hardener, whatever evens out. Mix it up real good, scrape the sides, get the bottom, get it mixed up really well. It's 5-minute epoxy. I get a alcohol rag out. I make sure that when I put this glue on, I make sure that the top of that tube as it goes in is plenty covered. My tendency is not to cover it up, and then there's a void there. So I always make sure I get plenty on the tube that's going in. Then of course we wait. It's again, it's 5-minute epoxy, but you can tell the color will change in the cup, and I always keep the popsicle stick in the plastic container, because it's not only on a timer for 5 minutes or watch the clock for 5 minutes, but you can go and tell if it's hardened up or not. So after 5, 8, or 10 minutes, however long you want it to sit there, you can see that it's turning a darker yellow. So if you can pick it up and smack it around and can't pull the popsicle stick out, you're pretty much there. So let's go get it sanded real quick, get it squared off before we put it on the mandrel. I always use the sander, touch it to the sander, and then turn it to keep it square. Then you can see a little bit of brass, shiny brass, you know you're there. Check it quite often, make sure you don't get it short. Okay, we got shiny brass, let's go mount it up. So we get it mounted up on the mandrel. Sped this process up too. Again, this was a very good blank. Using a carbide kind of semi-radius on the tip of it. This thing turned extremely easy. There was no chipping, there was no grabbing. You can see it, the acrylic is coming off very nicely. It was a very, very easy blank to work with, and it came out real nice. You'll see at the end it was just smooth as glass. Gonna get it cleaned off. I want to keep it a little fatter in the middle than on the ends. Add a little bit there at the end, smoothing it out. And again, this blank was easy to work with. I got it just about class smooth with the tool. But I'll start sanding on it. Start out with, I think, 230 on the grit, real quick. And I make sure that after sanding I go horizontally with it, or with the grain if it was wood. Wiping it off every time, make sure the grit is out of it. I don't want to be sanding in larger grit. And then I switched to 400. Again, clean it off, and then finished up with 600. And it was dry, not wet. The 3 grits I do dry before I get into the micro, which I do wet. Then I put a towel down to protect the lathe. I don't want to get water all over the lathe, especially when I just wax the bed. So I start out with the small 1500 on the micro mesh. Again, make sure it's wiped off. I wet the rag just a little bit to make sure I get the grit off. And again, as I go through the grit, I'll stop the lathe and then turn it by hand, doing the horizontal sanding. And again, wiping it off, making sure it's clean. And running through all the grits. And it's starting to really shine up. It's starting to get real smooth now. This thing turned out like a piece of glass. Very nice blank. And again, we're doing the micro mesh. Every time, stop, do the horizontal. Make sure you wipe it off. Micro mesh is going on wet but not soaking. I just make sure it's damp but not dripping with water. And I think we're going to probably start polishing it right after this one. I think this is the last micro mesh. You can see it's really starting to shine up now. And then we use some polish, so we start polishing it. A little too much there. I put a third coat on it. This thing is just really coming out nice. It's made a beautiful pen. Alright, so let's go get it pushed together, which I'm not sure what happened to the video of putting it together, but it went very smoothly together. But I want you to, and you can see the blank's really nice, but if you look at the blank at the top right there, you can see the brass is coming through. It looks a little bit golden, and I think what I need to start doing is on these colors that can be translucent or can be clearer, I need to start painting the blank. Now this one, I'm not sure if I would paint it white or if I would try to match kind of the pearl on the white. I think black would be too much, but I think painting the tubes on these things, this is I think the third one I've had come out that bled, but it kind of made it kind of nice. It was kind of a golden hue with it, but very pleased with the way the pen turned out. I think she'll like it, and again I like the blank itself. It was really easy to turn. So hope you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll put another video up here pretty quick. I have several more in the works. Again, please subscribe and keep in touch.